building a better Bay Area, moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC 7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC 7. We ask experts your questions every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, a trailblazing woman shares her story and explains the importance of diversity in a workplace. HP's Chief Diversity Officer will join us to celebrate the upcoming Professional Business Women's Conference. And calling all Bruce Lee fans, a brand new exhibit honoring the iconic martial arts movie star has opened in San Francisco, just ahead of Asian American Heritage Month. But first, everyone knows somebody or multiple somebodies with COVID right now. But do you know the protocol if you test positive? And Dr. Anthony Fauci is making waves today, saying the country is, quote, out of the full-blown explosive pandemic phase. Joining us to discuss these and other news topics and new topics, ABC 7 News special correspondent, Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Kristen.
Yeah, so some big waves that Dr. Fauci's making. But before we get to that, I know you have a round of two truths, which is always designed so that we learn the latest headlines a little more in depth. So you want to get us started?
Right on. You know, every segment has to begin with this in a nice interactive fashion. So everyone knows by now how to do this. Tell us which one of these is not true. Is it A, which I'm going to pull up because I can't read it?
Oh, do you want me to read it? I can see it. Okay, so which one is not true? A, according to the CDC, about 75% of children now have antibodies against COVID-19. Just jump back in when you see it, Dr. Patel. B, oral remdesivir just received full FDA approval for children under 12.
Or is it C?
Aha.
San Francisco County had about 8 times as many documented cases as Beijing did yesterday. Sorry for the back and forth, but tell us which one of these is not true.
Oh, my. Okay.
I had to amp up the difficulty a little bit, Kristen.
You really did, because each of these has, you know, a little bit of truth in it. So if you weren't reading very closely, if you only looked at the headlines, you may very well be fooled. Okay, so while I await answers, I am going to say B is the lie. It seems true upon first glance, but I think it might be one of those emergency use approval versus full approval kind of things. And maybe it's over 12 as opposed to under 12. So unless my viewers strongly disagree, I'm going with B as the lie. Oh, Sally agrees, so that's good enough for me, Sally. Let's go with B.
Sally came through. I'm going to give Chris you a half a point for being right, because B is the lie.
That's what I said.
It's not a lie because of the FDA approval for children under 12. It's a lie because it's not oral. It's an injection or an IV.
Oh.
But this is big news because remdesivir was under emergency use authorization for those kids under the age of 12. Now it has full FDA approval, which means there's more safety data, there's more indication. And parents can be rest assured a little bit that their kids who are, especially those who are high risk, have another medication that'll hopefully prevent hospitalizations or severe illness as we all patiently await for those vaccines to be approved for kids under the age of 5.
Okay.
And the other two are surprising but true. A lot of seroprevalence. There's a lot of exposure out there. A large percentage of kids have antibodies. And China has a zero COVID policy. And according to data from Johns Hopkins, they had about 1/8 the amount of infections we had in San Francisco, about 30. San Francisco County had 240. And you're seeing right now in the news how they're handling that over there. It's not so sustainable, and there is no significant end game in having zero COVID cases.
Yes. Wow. All right. Thank you very much. I will also give a shout out to Robin and Carrie for also going with B with me. And as you know, on these multiple choices, it's just that you got it right. It's not your reasoning. So I protest the half point. I get the full point. But thank you. That was really interesting. I want to ask you what Dr. Fauci means. This is making headlines today, saying what he said. And some people think that it means we're out of the pandemic phase. Is that what he meant? And what does that mean if we're out of the pandemic phase? Is he saying we're in the endemic phase?
It's not what he meant, but I 100% understand why it's being taken that way. What Dr. Fauci was referring to is that we're in a transitioning phase right now. The reason, Kristen, this is so confusing is he says we're transitioning right now. We are not at the same level where we were seeing 4,000 deaths a day and where people out there were getting sick and we didn't have treatments and we didn't have widespread vaccination available. But then he goes on to say we're still in a pandemic. So that's why it's adding a little bit of confusion. And again, we are making a slight educated guess about what this summer and this fall is going to look like. But I think everyone out there can rest a little bit rest assured that any future uptick in cases is not going to come across as the same outbreak with the same hospitalizations as we saw previously with Delta surge and the first Omicron surge. So I think that's what he meant when he said we're in a transitioning phase.
Got it. Okay, that's a really important difference to note there. Hey, in the Two Truths, you had an item about the CDC data showing that 75% of children already have antibodies. Two things. One, does that mean they had COVID and recovered, or could that be antibodies from vaccinations? And two, what is it for adults?
Well, presumably, Kristen, it is that there was some type of exposure to COVID in the past, whether it's recovered, whatever it may be. They could have been asymptomatic. They could have been really sick from it. But the important thing is that 75% of kids are not fully vaccinated. And so when we look at this data, this seroprevalence data, we need to be realistic and say we have a combination of vaccine-acquired immunity and naturally acquired immunity by whatever means, which should help to blunt the worst effects of any type of uptick in cases. And in adults, we saw that number above 50%, which is the first time that seroprevalence studies have been above 50%. But the important thing to understand right now is the presence of antibodies doesn't tell us a lot about the duration or about what level of protection that you're going to have. So it's still stressed that anyone out there who has antibodies is still fully vaccinated and getting a booster. But natural immunity does play a factor. It's important to note that.
All right, speaking of vaccines, let's talk about that. What is the latest with regard to vaccines for kids under 5? Still waiting.
Still waiting, and it seems to be adding a lot of frustration to parents and pediatricians alike out there. What the White House is essentially saying is that they expect in June that there is going to be data from Pfizer. Now, Pfizer is releasing data for their booster. We remember the data from their first 2 shots was not sufficient according to the FDA. Moderna already released data, but that showed only about a 30% efficacy. They want to release them at the same time to minimize confusion and not have it staggered. And then parents find out a month later, oh, Pfizer is better. But in reality, Kristen, I feel like parents have already made up their mind about what they're going to do. And the White House is kind of overemphasizing the amount of confusion this would cause. When parents just want an option, they just want some transparency.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about, one bit of good news, and that is we have more treatments and they're more available, including Paxlovid, right? And I think Vice President Kamala Harris, who has COVID right now, is on this, right? Is she in the eligible group? I mean, is there still an eligible group? Because I'm very confused. On the one hand, I hear, oh, it's becoming widely available. On the other hand, you hear people who say they try to get it, but they couldn't get it.
Simply put, Kristen, I have not seen any public reporting about why Vice President Harris is on Paxlovid. The only thing that was in a press release that this was a discussion and a decision made by her personal physician. So I don't want to speak to that. We know that she's 57, which is why she was eligible for the second booster. But again, the FDA basically clearly said that people above the age of 12 who are high risk are the ones who are eligible to go and get Paxlovid. And that is who this is designed for right now. Now, you made a very good point by talking about the supply there. We talked all about test to treat and going to your pharmacy with a positive test, having a prescription, getting Paxlovid, which is very effective, up to 90% effective in keeping people out of the hospital. But then, as we heard from Dr. Jha yesterday at the White House, there's a supply issue. Not every pharmacy actually has Paxlovid, and this has led to some physicians not wanting to prescribe it because they're afraid that they're going to cut into that supply. Well, we have to get to the point where anyone out there who is high risk, who wants that level of protection, is able to go to a pharmacy near them and get the pill.
Okay. Look, we have a couple minutes left, but we really have to talk about what to do if you have COVID or if you've been exposed, because so many people seem to have it right now. First of all, you don't feel well, you take a rapid test, it shows you're positive. What do you do?
So confusing. So basically, if you're positive or you're symptomatic, you're pretty sure you have it, you're in the isolation category. According to the CDC, you are going to isolate for 5 days. And then if it's been 5 days or 5 days and 24 hours after your last fever, you can break that isolation, but you should still wear a mask around others for another 5 days. That's a total of 10. If you have been exposed and you're completely asymptomatic, you're fully vaccinated, that's in the quarantine phase when you've just been exposed. You don't need to isolate. if you're fully vaccinated. But if you're not fully vaccinated and you've been exposed, you need to isolate. Did that sound confusing? It's because it kind of is. So people out there, for your own situation, you can go to the CDC's website and you can look at their online tool and plug in all your information, and it'll lead you down the right path. And this is more important now than ever because cases are still all around us, 40,000 positive cases a day, and we're starting to lift restrictions all over the place, including mask restrictions, and people inevitably are going to run into the virus.
Very true. So
if they haven't already.
If you are taking care of someone like a family member who's positive, how can you best protect yourself so that you hopefully don't get it as well?
Well, hopefully you're fully vaccinated. And in that situation, if you have a family member who is positive and you're not, remember the same things still apply: layered protection, ventilation, air filtration, masks, all of it.
All right, Dr. Alok Patel, always great talking with you and learning from you. Thank you so very much, and see you again soon.
Kristen, and I agree with you, winning's winning. I'll give you a full point, not the half one.
Oh, thank goodness. I was thinking about whether to invite you back. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Dr. Patel, see you later. Coming up next, turning your business aspirations into reality at the Professional Businesswomen of California's annual conference. How you can get involved after the break. All right. We are counting down the days until the annual Professional Businesswomen of California Conference. The event is happening virtually this year on May 10th and 11th. ABC7 is a proud sponsor, and HP is the conference's vision sponsor. Joining us live to talk about what this all means is the Chief Diversity Officer of HP, Leslie Slayton Brown. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Kristen.
I know you are very excited to be a part of it, and HP is a vision sponsor. Tell me why HP chose to do that. Why is this so important to be a part of this global community of women?
You know, it's important. So first and foremost, we are so proud to be a sponsor of the conference because, Kristen, we share a common goal with PBWC, and that really is around advancing gender equality. And so HP set out with a 50-50 equality goal, gender equality goal for 2030. And so our partnership just magnifies the importance of meeting that commitment for us.
Can you talk about your role in the company in terms of diversity. What is it that you're trying to bring to the company? Because it's relevant not just to HP, but really our society at large to have women involved at every level. Tell me why you think that is and how you can achieve it.
Well, I think first and foremost, I think it's important because diversity drives innovation. When you have diverse perspectives at the table, people with diverse experiences, then you're getting the best ideas. You're getting the greatest creativity and innovation. So it's very important for us to get that at the top of the company. And so our goal for 50-50 gender equality is to get that in leadership specifically.
I gotcha. And of course, you know, PBWC is a great place for women to build leadership skills and build their networks. This year's theme is Rise. What does that mean? And how is that reflected, Rise?
I love the theme. PBWC is always so creative with the themes. This year's Rise theme to me is more than just about aspiring and like claiming a seat at the table. It's about creating your own seat if you need to. And so when we think about Rise, it's all of those things for women to just unleash the innovation and entrepreneurship within us.
Well, can you give me an example, right, of how a woman might be able to create her own seat at the table?
Well, I think that there are many ways. I think that, you know, in part because as women, we nurture the cultures of our environments that we're in. We create what we want our experiences to be. One opportunity to rise is to have your voice be heard, to come up with new ideas in which you drive for your company. If you want to go out and start your own business, go out and start your own business. If you want a side gig, do a side gig. There's just so many opportunities to do. I mean, it's to rise up and do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, well, I've attended a lot of these conferences over the years. They're always wonderful, even virtual this year, like last year was terrific as well. I know there are a lot of workshops. Who are your, I know they're all great speakers, but who are you looking forward to hearing from?
So I love Lena Waithe. She is, I think, a creative genius. I love Melody. Her last name.
She's fantastic.
Yes, Hobson. Yeah, I mean, financial extraordinaire.
Yeah.
There are so many good speakers and, you know, very thoughtful speakers. And so if you go to the conference, you're going to have an opportunity to walk away with not only a great network and be inspired, but I would submit that you'll probably want to, you know, kind of take your game to another level even.
Yeah, for sure. And I got to say, this is great for young women as well. You get a lot of mentoring. How can people get involved? I know it's on May 10th and 11th, right?
May 10th and 11th, go to pbwc.org, get your registration, get registered, and then come ready to have a good time. It's high energy. It's phenomenal development. You're going to hear from great speakers, and you're going to have an opportunity to meet some of the finest and most innovative women in the industry.
Mindy Kaling as well. She is so great.
Mindy's another good one.
Right? All right, Leslie Slayton Brown, Chief Diversity Officer at HP, here talking with us about PBWC. Coming up again, that's May 10th and 11th. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. All right, we'll be right back, folks. All right. We were talking about the Professional Business Women of California Conference coming up in just a couple of weeks. We would like to introduce you to another speaker who can explain why you should attend.
Melissa, I'm so glad to be talking to you. Your story is really incredible. So for people who don't know it, this starts, you have been the first of many things. Some of them wonderful, some of them thrust upon you in circumstances we would never want to see for anyone. We'll start with one of those, and that is you are in the Army, you are in Iraq, you are barely there, and your convoy rolls across a bomb that detonates right underneath you.
Yes, that is correct. It's been almost 18 years, which is kind of crazy. Wow. It was back in 2004. But yeah, it was a roadside bomb that struck my vehicle. And to make what could be a pretty long story pretty short, it resulted in the loss of my left leg above the knee, which is where I stand today. So I feel very fortunate that it wasn't much worse. I have my life, like 3 good limbs. And honestly, I've lived a life I never dreamed possible. So it's kind of crazy how that happens. But yeah, 18 years ago, my life definitely changed forever.
I believe that you became the first woman to lose a limb in the Iraq War.
That is correct. That is what I've been told. Obviously, never a title that you aspire to get. You know, there were many other females that were severely wounded, and I just happened to be there and be the first one. So, yeah, I mean, it's a title, but it's nothing that you really aspire to be.
All right, let's talk about an aspirational title, because, again, that's 2004. 4 years later, you are getting ready to go to the Paralympics. Now, that's a very short amount of time to go from being severely injured to being competing on the world stage. How in the world did you do that?
Why not? You know, I think after losing a leg, you kind of, so I was surrounded by these other soldiers, a lot of them, you know, missing way more than I was, and felt fortunate enough to have my life, and kind of wanted to prove to myself it didn't matter if I just had one leg, I could still get out there and do what I wanted to do and have these big dreams. And I've been an athlete growing up. I was a big gymnast. So I heard about the US Paralympics and thought, what greater honor on the world's biggest athletic stage, wearing a Team USA uniform, one that I was, you know, so a country I was so proud to represent, and like, why not give it a go? So went for it in the sport of swimming. You know, had to kind of catch up pretty quickly to my fellow competitors, but it worked, like hard work. It paid off. And I was able to be in the 2008 Beijing Paralympics, representing a country I defended over in Iraq. I mean, what an incredible journey. And it kind of closed that circle from Baghdad to Beijing, and just kind of like made sense. It was, yeah, crazy. It was already that long ago, but such a part of the story.
And so, yeah, so you went from being the first woman to lose a limb in the Iraq War to being the first Iraq vet to represent in the games in just that 4-year period. And it's not like that was the last time that we would see you compete. It only built from there, because after that, you would go to Rio and you would be involved for the very first time for anyone on a team that was competing in what?
Triathlon. So swim, bike, run. So started that in 2009. And yes, 2016 in Rio was like the debut year for para triathlon at the Paralympic Games.
Did you know that you could do that? I mean, swimming is interesting for someone who is missing a limb because you don't need to have, you're not supporting your weight on that limb. I'm not trying to say that that's easy. I'm just trying to say it's a different, it must be, you know, in some ways, a more comfortable experience. But going from the pool to now being involved in something which I honestly can't imagine for the first time. I mean, did you know that you could do that?
No, like I used to think triathletes were crazy. I mean, swim, bike, and run all at the same time, and now I'm gonna add a prosthetic in there. Yeah. But I did my first race in 2009, kind of got hooked, fell in love with it, was decent at it. So kind of it was like my new thing, just my new passion that I really learned to love pretty quickly.
Coming up next, he was born in San Francisco and became an international star. Now, a brand new exhibition in Chinatown is honoring the legacy of Bruce Lee. We are talking about it with the executive director of the Chinese Historical Society of America. Remember Google Glass? Now, similar technology is being used again, this time in helping the vision impaired read and to identify objects and people. ABC 7 News reporter David Louie explains how it works.
A history-making mission to space.
Liftoff. Go Falcon. Let freedom.
Go ahead and just pull them over your ear like normal glasses.
Neeraj Gupta is hoping these special glasses are going to be a life changer. After starting to lose vision in his 20s from a progressive disorder, he had to stop driving and working in finance.
If there's some technology out there, if there's some way that can help me in my daily life, I will do what it takes to regain my independence, to still live a normal life.
A Dutch firm, Envision, has taken the newest iteration of Google Glasses and added artificial intelligence.
It says double tap to scan the text. So
go ahead and try.
Sounds like it took a picture, yeah.
They can capture and then read aloud text, labels, or signs in front of the user in a matter of seconds.
English.
Oil painting by Dutch Golden Age painter Johannes Vermeer.
Envision founder Karthik Kannan says this opens a new world for the blind and visually impaired.
Envision reads over 60 different languages, including right-to-left languages like Hebrew, Arabic, and so on. It reads handwritten languages, handwritten scripts as well.
Envision glasses can create a database of objects and faces, so when a user walks into a room, the glasses will describe who or what is there. And when a user needs help, the glasses will call an ally, displaying what the user's glasses are seeing. Then they can have a hands-free call to help the user navigate a complex setting.
We've got two big conference rooms in front of you to the left.
To my left. Okay, great. I'm always trying to figure out, am I at the right train station? Is it the right direction I'm going? And when I get...
Thanks for joining us. See you back here at 4.